everyone else did.
Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, our insiders Brian Windhorst, Jackie McMullen, and welcome back to the table, six-time champ, Scotty. 666. Scotty, of course, not just the Hall of Famer for your NBA work, you were also on the greatest team of all time, the Dream Team. This week is the 25th anniversary of that team. We'll be talking at length all the good dirt and stories later in the show. But first, we must get to... The Cavaliers gave a press conference yesterday, and it became very clear very quickly that they had hashtag goals. First, new GM Kobe Altman and owner Dan Gilbert wanted to reassure fans about the direction of the franchise over and over again.
It's unfortunate sort of the narrative that's going on right now, in terms of where we're at. This thing is not broken. We are a very successful organization, and we're going to continue to drive for that success.
I do feel as strong as I've ever felt about a team. I think these guys have killed it in the last 21, it's more than that now, 5 to 6 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. And I think they'll continue to kill it.
We've done a lot of things to not only stay competitive, but incremental steps to get better.
Gilbert carried this through his whole presser. You know, it's normal not to retain a single GM the entire time you've been owner. It's no big deal, people, when you woo a team president and he turns you down. Basically, there was a lot of this. This is fine. Everything is fine. Totally fine. Of course, the truth is, as always, somewhere in the middle. Kobe is absolutely right in saying the Cavaliers are not broken. I can name a half-dozen teams that would kill for the kind of problems Cleveland is having this summer. And no, the Cavaliers situation is not irreparable either. But it's not exactly a field of flowers here. The team's second-best player has asked for a trade, and according to Jason Lloyd of The Athletic, he's not even answering the organization's phone calls anymore. Oh, and he made this request at the worst possible time for the Cavs, right after many of the players they could have dealt him for had been traded or committed elsewhere. Now, we should note that during yesterday's news conference, neither Gilbert nor Altman officially acknowledged the Kyrie situation. Instead, they used phrases like, "It's fluid," and "We've discussed several scenarios." Gilbert even went as far as to say that as of right now, he'd expect Kyrie to be at training camp, which of course is as much spin as the rest of it, but at least that's very smart spin. Cleveland cannot let itself get back into making a move with Kyrie here. LeBron James has a no-trade clause, which makes Kyrie the team's most valuable trade asset. If the perception is the Cavs have to move him because so much damage has been done, their bargaining position weakens, they won't get as much for him. Cleveland needs to convince everyone, including Kyrie and his agent, that they will only make a deal if a great one comes along. Because the truth is actually that they don't need to trade him, as we have noted several times on this show, and Gilbert noted from the podium yesterday. Kobe Bryant demanded a trade in 2007, and it never happened. In fact, he went on to win more championships in a Lakers jersey. And this is where the Cavaliers front office will be tested in the coming weeks, where we'll get to see if, in fact, everything is fine in Cleveland. Will they be able to make a smart deal for Kyrie, or will they panic? Will they work behind the scenes to repair the relationship between Kai and LeBron, or will they bungle it? Because the hard truth is this. You cannot reset a team's narrative from the podium. Things aren't good just because you say they are, but you can go out and make them that way. And Scotty, you've always been very open talking about your relationship with Michael Jordan, those feelings you had knowing there was someone else who the organization was catered around, and how that changed over time, too, when he left and came back and then left back. How do you see the whole Kyrie situation?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I think from his standpoint is he wants to be comfortable. He wants to be in a situation where he feels that his superstar player, LeBron James, is going to be there. And I don't think LeBron is giving him that superior confidence that he needs to feel like that he can buy into their organization. And secondly, I think it was what Dan Gilbert said. He probably found out that he was on the trading block during the playoffs, during the run. And when those things start to play into a player's mind, then you tend to want to turn the other way. And I think this is a situation that we're seeing here with Kyrie is that he's kind of burned out of it. I mean, look, LeBron left him when he came into the league. So to allow him to do that to him again, it would probably be a shame on me. Well, so he's trying to pull the trigger on the Cavs.
What kept you from feeling that need of sort of, oh, I'm frustrated with the situation, everything's catered around Michael? What were the things that made it okay for you?
I think as a player, you feel that way no matter what. And I can say that I didn't feel that way, but I felt like that I took winning over my own personal goals at that time. And, you know, every player wants to be a star. Every player wants to be the man on his team. Every player wants to take the last shot at the end of the game. I mean, that's what you live for as a player. But at the end of the day, what mattered most to me was to win and really to bond my relationship more with Michael than to try to break away from him. I mean, Michael Jordan is the greatest player to ever play the game, so who wouldn't want to embrace that relationship?
But don't you think that the landscape was completely different back? There was hardly any player movement, Scotty. There was a completely different way that players went about their business. I mean, I wonder, and I know this is a hard question, but in today's world, would it have been the same for you?
No, it wouldn't have. And I would have had the mindset that the guys in today's game have. And these guys in today's game are they're more focused on their personal business around the game. And I think it's smart. I can't knock them for that. Hearing Kyrie want to go play in New York, that's big for his business. It's big for his on-branding. And if LeBron is going to keep fiddling with him and the Cavs are going to keep talking about trading him, then he wants to go somewhere that he can be strong and build his brand strong and hopefully turn the Knicks into a winning situation. I mean, look at the bright side. There's only one way for the Knicks to go.
It's a risk reward, though. It's a risk reward because if he leaves LeBron and is not successful, it could be more damaging to his brand than just about anything else. If he's viewed as a guy who needs LeBron and that he gets heckled everywhere he goes and needs LeBron. But you're right, Scotty. If he goes to New York and carries the Knicks to a playoff situation, it's probably worth more to him than another championship would be. But boy, has he put himself in a tough spot with this. His window of, although he can declare success, is going to be tight. He can execute it, and he obviously believes he can execute it, or he wouldn't have set these events in motion. But he is going to find himself in a situation where what he can declare as victory is going to be a narrowing set of options, especially if he goes to a team that is not strong.
Well,
and he has to stand on his own.
That's the thing is, it's unlikely that he does go to New York, right? Because he doesn't control this. He doesn't have a no-trade clause. He can give a list, but the Cavs don't have to listen to it. So the Cavs are going to make the best deal to get back the pieces for them that is not likely to be with the New York Knicks. And then all of a sudden, he could end up in no man's land somewhere.
You know what I thought was interesting, and I just found this out today, that right now, Kyrie Irving has the #1 Nike shoe. #1.
Other than Jordan.
Well,
Well, we're talking current player, Brian. Come on.
Exactly.
that's pretty significant.
Yes, he's
so in terms
extremely
of
popular.
brand, his brand is doing pretty well right where he is.
He's extremely popular.
Yeah,
and I think
he is.
It's doing great in a small market, but imagine what he could do in a market like New York.
But there's a couple layers here. We have the surface layer, which we all can see. Now let's talk about the lower layer. Kyrie, we can go into it. Kyrie let it be known the 4 teams that he wants to go to, okay? So that's Kyrie sort of operating, right? Now, what the Cavs were doing yesterday, as you mentioned, was operating back.
Well,
because
of course,
what they were saying,
that was the thing
they were
doing.
tugging, trying to tug the leverage back. Because Kyrie can exert leverage because he can say, I'm not going to re-sign with you, which can kill his market and force him to one of those 4 teams.
But I'm going to keep going back that they don't have to trade him.
That's
If Kyrie goes out,
but they want to trade him.
But if Kyrie goes out and says, I'm only playing for one of these 4 teams, let me make it known I'm not going to sign with you, my answer, if I'm the Cavaliers, is, oh, okay, fine, we won't deal you.
That was yesterday's. That was.
I mean, there's no...
Because they can't get Kyrie on the phone right now? That was their message to Kyrie yesterday.
This was the messaging, and I mean, look...
But you know how this goes, though. You know how this goes, because we've seen it before. Kobe, that was different. I still see that was different. That was a beef with management. This is a split among players. Those trades tend to happen.
I don't know. We had Richard Jefferson come out 2 days ago and said it was about management.
I don't know. We have a triangle.
There's
here.
a lot there.
Typically, in the player ownership management situation, there's 2 sides.
Always.
Because of LeBron here, we now have 3 sides.
Right.
And this is not something we've seen before.
Ever.
You're right, Scotty, that based on the way it was back when you were in this type of situation is different from today. But even from what happened with Paul George to what happened with LeBron, or with LeBron, Kyrie, and the Cavs is completely different.
No, and I mean, there's no question that this could go a lot of ways. When I sit there and say it's on the Cavs to see what they do next, this is not done. The story is not written. These guys could be put in a room and they could make up. There could be a blockbuster trade that helps the Cavs. There could be a disaster trade. And we go back and look at this and say, wow, the Cavs really screwed this up. They had 3 straight finals runs and it all fell apart.
Good luck, Kobe.
So
Dan Gilbert is not going to screw this up.
Well,
Kobe Altman handled himself very well.
He did, absolutely.
Well.
And that is the beginning of the narrative change, but you've got to actually change the narrative. You can't just say it's changed. And the other interesting thing that happened in that press conference yesterday, oh my, look, I sat with Dan Gilbert for a while at Summer League, and several times in one conversation, I would say 3 times in 10 minutes, he asked me, why do you think Indiana would make that trade with Oklahoma City? That doesn't make sense to me. And boy, did he go public with that yesterday. Kobe Altman was answering a question very judiciously about how the Paul George trade that they had set up with Indiana did fall apart. And Dan Gilbert just pipes in at the end. I will say that Indiana could have done better than it did.
He was doing so good. He had his note cards. He was staying on topic, and then he just went right off the script. So I have done a lot of reporting on this. And so I can say with what I think is pretty strong belief, having talked to many parties here, the Indiana Pacers would have traded Paul George to Cleveland for Kyrie Irving. They offered that, I am told, 10 times, 10 different times to the Cavs as they talked over the weeks. What about Kyrie? The Cavs said no each time. The Cavs tried to weave a 3-way deal with Denver, and on the 30th of June, the day that Paul George was traded, the Cavs and Nuggets, but certainly the Cavs, thought they had a deal.
Right.
They thought they were so convinced of it that they were making plans to get Paul George, to even get him on the phone. The Pacers don't believe they ever actually agreed to a deal. And when they were arguing over a first-round pick. There was going to be a first-round pick that was going to come to the Pacers, and they were arguing over protection.
Okay, but I want to know what the Pacers thought.
I
want to know what the Pacers thought after yesterday.
What do you think they thought?
But I think there were other deals besides Cleveland that were better that Indiana could have made.
Pacers had 4 trades on the board at the end. One was the Cleveland trade. One was another trade they had with Philadelphia. A third trade that I don't even know what it is.
Boston.
They called Boston before they did the deal and said, make us your offer. And Boston said, that's what I'm told.
See, I
we
feel
don't have an offer for you.
Well, they weren't going to give away the house for a player they couldn't guarantee would stay with them.
When a player hears rumors like this,
yes,
they want to be traded.
That's part of it.
I can understand.
That's why I feel Kyrie wants out.
Right.
Is that he knows that he's the next guy.
So that means Kevin Love wants out, too, because his name was all over the block.
But in this case, it was the Pacers asking for Kyrie. The thing about it is, if the Pacers had held on and not done that deal, this is one thing that Dan Gilbert could say. If the Pacers had held on and not done that deal, then they could have made the deal for Kyrie probably today for Paul George.
We are going to be able to talk about this, well, all summer, of course, because that's the way it's going to go. But we are going to take a quick break, because when we return, it is time to put Scotty back in his Dream Team uniform. It's been 25 years. But I think it still fits. He's in good shape.
I know. My goodness.
Coming up next, Scotty remembers.
The Jump is brought to you by the Dark Tower in Peters, August 4th.
Only at forward, Scotty Pippen.
Scotty Pippen, you just can't match it.
Welcome back to The Jump. You just saw Scottie Pippen. You like the video? Got you moving again? You got hoops right behind
you. It's
you
always
here.
nice to turn back the time.
Right? I'm telling you, you can still pull off the uniform. So.
No.
No?
I tried to play yesterday, and you don't know how bad I'm aching today.
Oh, really?
You playing with your sons?
No, I went play with Kanye and some guys over at UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
We do that all the time, play with Kanye at UCLA.
I want to play with some guys, whatever, you know. When did you first realize just how special this group was?
I think when they called me up and told me I was a part of the team, I realized that I was a part of a group of guys that I had pretty much idolized before I got into the game, having a chance to watch their careers, and now to get the opportunity to go spend a summer with them and learn from them and see what their habits were and what they did in the summertime was the greatest thing.
I mean, you've been to plenty of All-Star games before, but this is different.
It was totally different. I mean, I've hung out with Michael, but to have Larry there, have Magic there, have Charles there, David, I mean, Patrick, you know, it was just fun. You know, I've always competed with these guys between the lines, but to have the opportunity to bond with them and get to know them, it just made it that much more greater for me.
So my favorite Dream Team stories revolve all around Michael and Magic, because MJ loved torturing Magic. Never mind the white and blue game, that was one of them, but playing pool, all this. Could you just tell us a little bit about the back and forth between them?
They were always competitive. I mean, no matter what. I mean, and it didn't just stop when we left the court. I mean, we go to practice. They didn't want to play with each other. They always wanted to be on opposite teams. And then after we leave the court, it's into the card room, we start gambling and stuff like that. So it was just
There's gambling in this establishment? No.
I mean, we were playing with Monopoly money.
Totally,
but,
totally.
It was just, you know, those two guys were the driving force, really, to keep our practice and everything going and just keep that camaraderie going, because they kept that competitive edge with that East and the West going at each other. And it just, you know, it was great to see a lot of great superstars really put their egos aside and bring it all together. And, you know, we didn't waste any time bonding. I mean, the group just really wanted to be together. They wanted to play together, and just amazingly, we came together so fast.
So, Scotty, it was 25 years ago today, a game versus Croatia. Just because it was today, the famous shutdown. And I mean shutdown of your teammate, Tony Kukoc. Did he ever forgive you for what you and Michael did to him in that afternoon, that game in Barcelona?
You know what? In all fairness to Tony, we took advantage of a very young kid. I think he was 18 or 19 at that time. And, you know, we were in our prime. And, you know, I think we had heard so much about Tony, and it was to the point that it was unbelievable for us that he got to prove to us that he's this kind of player. And we pretty much went into that game like we treated him so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like we
But
were
Jerry
fighting
Krause put him in that
hard.
position.
Yeah, I mean,
Jerry Krause
it was
like
all
touting
wrong.
him.
Right.
Yeah.
But isn't that part of the idea, right? That's how you sort of egg everybody on and
Exactly.
put the
But I
recipe
think
together.
in all, like, Tony really learned from this, and it was an experience for him. But
Oh, it was an experience.
Yes.
he really was able to grow, but he also realized that that's how we competed. You know, we played like that
This is the
no
bar.
matter who we competed against. It wasn't just pointed or directed towards him. That was the competitive fire.
Well, like against each other.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
before we go, we have to ask you about the scrimmage. Please. Please.
Which scrimmage? Me
Okay.
and MJ,
Yeah,
or the one that we got beat by those young kids? But our scrimmages during the Dream Team.
The scrimmages against each other. Is
I
what
was
I'm
always
asking about.
playing with Michael, and Magic was always against us. I mean, he always wanted to compete against Michael. I mean, that was their thing. It's like the two MJs was always going at it head to head. And, you know, even though Magic was an older player, he was still holding his own. And, you know, Magic has never been a guy that's going to go point for point with you, but he's going to make sure that he executes something where his team is going to come out on top.
Best trash talker on the team?
Charles Barkley.
That was easy.
Except for the best thing about Barkley was they'd all be down one end going, yeah, no, championship players only. Go down there
Are you
with
kidding?
Malone and the other guys.
You still do that to Chuck. What do you mean back then? I watch that happen now all the time. Come on. Please. No, I mean, the idea, the way that team, it just will never be replicated. Such a special moment, has had such a lasting impact, ripples among the NBA landscape as we see it today. Team USA today. Just such a big deal.
It is. I mean, there will never be another Magic. There will never be another Michael. And, you know, Larry Bird.
Never be another Scotty.
Never be another Scottie Pippen. And with everything going on with Magic Johnson that year, too, I know what a special experience that was. We are going to take a quick break, but when the Jump returns, we will remember Reggie Lewis. This is another anniversary, the 24th anniversary of his death. One reporter on this set covered Reggie very closely. We will discuss when we get back.
We have 2 footlongs for...
Our women's national soccer team will take on Australia tonight in the inaugural Tournament of Nations, 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And right afterward, it's SportsCenter at night. Lisa Kearney and the one and only John Buccigross. And welcome back to The Jump. We were talking about the 25th anniversary of the Dream Team in the last segment, but we are also marking a much more sad anniversary today. It was 24 years ago tonight that Reggie Lewis died. The Celtics star was just 27 years old when he collapsed shooting jumpers at Brandeis University, and was not the first time he'd had problems. He'd been diagnosed with a heart issue when he collapsed during a playoff game earlier that spring. But Lewis got different opinions from different doctors on whether he should continue playing, and in the end, his decision to return to the court cost him his life. Jackie, you knew Reggie so well from covering him both in college and the pros. And Scotty, you were drafted with him. You, of course, played against him. What should we remember about Reggie Lewis?
You know what? He was a great basketball player, a great person. You know, my remembrance of Reggie is when he came into the league, he came in, we went through a lot of pre-draft camps to build our stock up to get drafted. And I bonded with him early on before we even got drafted. And just watching his growth and his development as a player, it was amazing to watch what type of scorer he turned out to be.
He was going to be a Hall of Famer. We talked about this off camera. Let me just read you something. From 1988 to 93, he had 7,500 points, 1,500 rebounds, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 steals. There were only 5 other players: Jordan, Barkley, Drexler, Malone, Chris Mullin. That was the company he was in. We were talking off camera also. There was a game at the Garden, March 1991. He blocked 4 of Jordan's shots, 4 of them. I called Jordan up on the 20th anniversary of his death, and this is what Michael Jordan said about Reggie Lewis. His length confused me. Who confuses Michael Jordan? Every time I thought he had him beat, he'd get up and recover me. When you have the skills to break someone down and you can't, it makes you tentative. Have you ever heard Michael Jordan say that about any other player?
That's amazing, and that's just go to show you how great of a player Reggie Lewis was.
Yeah, a loss to basketball, and a loss to everyone around him,
he was a wonderful kid.
Such
I miss
a
him.
warm person, and just the whole Celtics organization took a long time to recover from that. And his family, of course, still misses him every day. I want to thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you, Brian.
Pleasure to be here.
You guys will be back here tomorrow. Sports Nation is next. We're just going to keep talking to Scotty about the Dream Team, so we'll be over here.
We're here for the next 4 hours.